to the fullest. I feel like Willie T. Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everybody. Namaste. I am Pasta Jardula.
What is wrong with you? I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is spitting on the ones and twos. What is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. There's everything that's right with me. The energy is good. The sun is shining. The air is airing. The birds are chirping. And, of course, we have an amazing guest in the house
Overly
today.
happy people are suspect. Always
Okay.
will be.
Well, then
okay.
make me suspect. Put me in handcuffs. Call the happy police. You're not
This
going
is
to ruin
not
my
that kind
mood.
of show, fam.
And I am going to, today it is, because today's guest is here. He's in the studio. We love him. We always brag about him. Our good friend, my man, Steve Poikonen, Slow News Day. How you doing today?
I am humbled and flattered and overwhelmed and full. Thank you for breakfast. That was lovely.
Namaste, Steve. Namaste.
Namastop.
Namaste.
Namastop.
Namaste.
Namastop.
It's always a joy to have Steve here for the Steve-isms.
Yes. We used to call them Poikonisms, but people couldn't say the word properly, so we just went to Steve-isms.
Well, yeah, most people are absolutely just total plebeians, Pasta.
Yeah.
You can't count on the people to pronounce things.
Yeah.
It's just one of the... But us, as elevated and esteemed members of the independent media, we have had training in how to pronounce words. And
I still have,
Well-
I still have problems with the English language, but still, yeah, I'm a co-host of a show, despite, we do what we can do.
Yeah. Perfection is boring.
I agree. I do. I thought, you know what, it was probably the only time that I have talked about the Grateful Dead in months, but the Grateful Dead had a philosophy, and it was the freedom to fuck up. And they believed in the freedom to fuck up on stage early and often, and built up one of the most faithful and probably drug-induced, propagandized, dedicated, loyal fan base on the planet. Yeah, and I'm hoping that we have enough people who do similar drugs that they'll, stay with us just as long.
Joe Biden is a fan. Free to fuck up. By the way, Hunter Carranza jumped into the chat right away. Said, love, how you doing? Love you, fam. Hi, Hunter Carranza. Look who's with us over here. And then Embald Fate came in. Or Embald Fate, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But R.I.P. Mike Gravel, you will be missed. I'd also like to remind people the DNC cheated him out of the debates. No more pretending we have choices in our elections.
Nope.
It's best not to participate until we can actually choose who we vote for. Steve, your thoughts?
Steve, exactly.
Hey,
Who doesn't play team sports?
Emblem Fate.
Thank you. See?
Stop it!
Thank
Don't
you.
validate his lunacy.
I am an equal opportunity enabler, Fee, and I will enable you 100%, 100% of the time.
At least you're consistent.
All right. But so Pasta gets this one. But I know we're gonna get into Mike Gravel. Huge amount of respect for Mike Gravel, even though he was a politician.
Yeah.
And his kind of I'm over it approach to political bullshit going back to 2008 is one of the reasons that I got involved with political reporting in the first place, because that's when I was briefly employed by The Nation magazine as part of their election blog team, and Gravel was the first person that I wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
Because of the Pentagon Papers and because of his position and being out in front along with Cynthia McKinney. We were just, before we went on September 11th, demanding answers from the Bush administration. I don't have the answers to 9/11, but I know that what the official narrative was is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I would like to, out of respect for the people who lost their lives, for the people who live every day in some sort of medically induced pain because of being a first responder there, I think those people deserve answers, and I don't think that they've been provided them.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why that's a controversial position. There are people who have been looked to and elevated as like the pinnacle of progressive wisdom who push as far away and push back on 9/11 as much as possible. I don't want to talk about it, but no. George W. Bush must have told the truth about this, otherwise we would know it was, and they have a position of respect and like thought leadership on the left, and they won't touch it. If you don't understand or at least don't question 9/11, then you're not going to get anything about what's happening with COVID right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
It opened up the door to make policies that just infringe on our civil liberties to this day. Let us go wherever we want. The AUMF, Jesus Christ, man, you don't even have to go to Congress. I can go to war with whoever I want. By the way, really quickly, I just want to say hi and love to Trey Wright, who is here. Hello, mates, as well. And one last thing, real quick, fam. Sorry, right here. A very lovely tip from Rob McMurtry. And by the way, Zach W. from Food Not Bombs LA is on the Rokfin today. He's not just on YouTube. We met Zach yesterday, Food Not Bombs, and that will kind of lead into what Mike Gravel was all about, right? Food Not Bombs, that kind of mentality. Fam, do you want to start us off, or do you want to start off with the first Gravel clip, or
let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead and get into it. We have a lot of things to talk about. Mike Gravel, of course, was 91. He passed away peacefully. I'm pissed that we didn't get to interview him. I think he was one of those anti-war voices that one of the last, honestly, one of the most genuine last. And he was definitely slept on by a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters who thought Bernie was the most anti-imperialist because Mike Gravel was there before. He was there. He's been there for a while. And I don't, at this point right now, I'm not liking politicians. But when you look back at what he was doing, it's really impactful. We have a lot to learn from him. So let's just go ahead and play
My favorite clip of him was watching
clip.
this live because I was a Dennis Kucinich guy. And then this gentleman, I didn't know a lot about him, and it made me learn a lot about him, was this moment right over here.
You're right, I made that statement, but that's before I had a chance to stand with them three times. It's like going into the Senate. The first time you get there, you're all excited. My God, how did I ever get here? Then about 6 months later, you say, how the hell did the rest of them get here? And I got to tell you, after years...
Use a little moderator discretion here. Senator Gravel, that's a weighty charge. Who on this stage exactly tonight worries you so much?
Well, I would say the top-tier ones. The top-tier ones. They made statements. Oh, Joe, I'll include you too. You have a certain arrogance. You want to tell the Iraqis how to run their country. I got to tell you, we should just plain get out. Just plain get out. It's their country. They're asking us to leave, and we insist on staying there. And why not get out? What harm is it going to do? Oh, you hear the statement, well, my God, the soldiers will have died in vain. The entire deaths of Vietnam died in vain. And they're dying in vain right this very second. You know what's worse than a soldier dying in vain is more soldiers dying in vain. That's what's worse.
How'd you like Joe Biden raising his fucking hand over there? Like, don't forget me. And they're literally talking about Iraq, the war that he pushed for on the Senate floor so hard. Millions of people displaced or murdered, you know what I'm saying? And they want to be a part of it. They're laughing at it. Hillary Clinton laughing at it. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, that's just, it was a long time ago, man. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
This is the leader of the free world.
Yeah, right. And the thing is that if you look at, I don't think we put it on here, but if you look at how the mainstream media is talking about him comparison to how they talked about John McCain or how they've,
Is there going to be a week-long state funeral for Mike Gravel? Are we going to see moaning and gnashing of teeth and an outpouring of sympathy from warmongers across the planet?
Yeah.
For this? No, we're not. And Mike Gravel was naval intelligence. Mike Gravel, Korean War, Mike Gravel took that experience and went, hey, this was
wrong.
A waste. Yeah. This was nonsense. This should not have happened. And when he read in the Pentagon Papers on the floor of Congress so that it would be part of the congressional record forever, he was prepared to go to jail in that moment. He actually took the courage of his convictions to work with him that day. And was basically pilloried for it for the rest of his career until it was safe enough to look back on that moment in history as something to be, remembered as having value. But in the immediate moment, it was only disruptive. It was only the wrong thing to do. And this is something I think that a lot of our colleagues have no perspective of, or have no situational awareness of, because they're cognizant of the fact that in the moment, celebrated leftist figures like MLK, like Malcolm X, like Fred Hampton were hated, and it's only through the lens of history that they're looked at to be as, you know, the highly valuable, very necessary, scratch surface radical, not full on radical. At least with what we got to see, we don't know a whole lot more about what they thought privately, but on the surface, radicalism, and that was too much in the moment. I feel like there's a lot of lessons that could be applied that many of our colleagues are failing to recognize.
Yeah. I also think the bypassing of the memory hole right now with the information, the way we put it out there, had we not been able to put out this information about these people and stuff, I mean, there was a lot of talk about Fred Hampton and the work he did with the YPO. That's, obviously people were trying to go to the memory hole and say, no, this is what it is. And we were kind of, beating back against that narrative and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful that we've had that mechanism to tell these stories, get away from the empire education of what we've been told, what was what. Because I was told that the Black Panthers were a radical group in high school briefly one day, you know what I'm saying? We didn't really talk about it. We didn't talk about what Fred Hampton do. We didn't talk about the education and the food he provided.
I got to talk to somebody on the train at DIA going from terminal to terminal because he had a Black Panthers Youth food Program shirt on. And I'm like,
it's awesome.
Cool. And I'm like, hey, look, man, I've done that. I've been a part of that in a couple of different places and told him about the people I know in Oakland, told him about Reverend Annie, and he was like, holy shit. Dude, really? Like, that's still a thing? I thought it was just a shirt I could buy. And I'm like, no, bro. There's still Black Panthers that are living, that are still giving away food every single day. And, just how you can go help that.
The next clip was talking about what you talked about, what happened as far as the Pentagon Papers. I don't think a lot of people understand the whole way it went, what he was planning to do, the filibuster he was trying to beat. I believe it was Strom Thurmond. He was going to try to beat that record, but he wanted to make sure he got all those papers, even how he got those papers and the exchange they made. Here's a little clip of that time, what happened on the floor. And like you said, there was a chance he was afraid he might be going to jail once he started reading them.
And was fully prepared to.
Yeah.
That's the important bit.
Yes. Ready to take that shit.
East Asia policy.
I was frightened to death over releasing the Pentagon Papers. I had no idea whether I was going to prison. All I could think of was, my country is killing people, we're maiming Americans, and this is terrible. And so I was overcome with emotion, not patriotism, just emotion of something you love dearly that has gone astray.
He continued until exhaustion and emotion overcame him after 1 o'clock this morning.
I collected myself, and I asked, now keep in mind, I'm the only one on the committee. I asked unanimous consent to put all of these papers into the record, and I've got the gavel, and I slam it, and I say, hearing no objection, so ordered, that's it. Papers are out. They're in the Senate record.
East Asia policy.
And so they were admitted to the record for all and stuff. I know as a Julian Assange activist, you got to think, if Julian had a Gravel the way Daniel did, I mean, how would things just be so different? You know what I'm saying?
But throughout many parts of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks' story, the opportunity's been there. Even as up to the presidential run in 2020, Tulsi Gabbard was there. At any moment, Tulsi Gabbard could have read anything from WikiLeaks into the congressional record.
Yeah.
And I don't want to relitigate the last decade, or even I don't want to focus on Tulsi. I'm just saying, like, at any moment, any elected member of Congress could do that. The fact that it only happened once says more about how DC works than just about anything else. Because Mike Gravel is 100% unique in an experience like this. And it's not that Gravel had courage or character that these people don't. You just heard him.
Yeah.
I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
Afraid for my life. Shaking. Overcome with, emotion and all. There's... Deepa Driver says it all the time. Courage is contagious, right? And yes, but only if people actually catch it, right? And we haven't had anyone, at least in any of our elected bodies, catch that courage.
Yeah.
No, that just points to.
I think a lot of the predator classes learn from Mike Gravel, and they're making sure that people won't cross that line again. Fam, I shared this next tweet, but I didn't want to share the tweet. You put it up, I think, on the Convo Couch Instagram.
Yeah.
We've become a nation ruled. Johnny, the next one, a picture of Mike Gravel's face from the tweet. Okay, I don't think you have it up. It just says, we become a nation ruled by fear. Since the end of the Second World War, various political leaders have fostered fear in the American people. Fear of communism, fear of terrorism, fear of immigrants, fear of people based on race and religion, fear of gays and lesbians in love who just want to get married, and fear of people who are somehow different. It is fear that allows political leaders to manipulate all of us and distort our national priorities, and that is Michael Gravel.
Yeah, and that is the truth, because if you even look at to how a large contingent of the left is manipulated, it's through fear. It's through the fear of anybody thinking differently than them, and calling everybody a Nazi or a fascist if they're ever so different in their perception. It is the fear of straying away from what has religiously been called science and not being able to question that, and marking everybody an anti-vaxxer for simply questioning a vaccine. It is that fear that is manipulating all of these people into submission and outright almost demand for a call for fascism. Yeah. And that's where they're taking us, and we can't allow these people on either end of the spectrum to take us towards a path of authoritarianism, because that is the complete absence of any sort of free thought, and it's really scary to me what's happening, and I think that it's something that he points out too.
The consortium news, Johnny, I did skip over it. You were on point. I was there. I don't want to read anything from it. It's just, guys, if you get a chance, from Joe Loria, and just talking with Mike Gravel, the way they set it up. There's the part 2 is supposed to be coming out today. Part 1 is just very interesting. He tells you about the whole process, the plan, the way he got his staff involved. The what do you call them? The colostomy bags that they put down there, because they were planning.
Depends.
Like literally
adult diapers.
Diapers. They were getting ready for all that stuff because they thought he was going to be up there for 30 hours.
Yeah,
that was the whole plan. So it just tells you everything about this situation, and it's kind of a shame that he passed away 3 days before the 50-year anniversary of him reading these papers. So. Kind of amazing. But fam, you did talk about this, and we are going to mention this because we know that when Henry Kissinger dies, he's going to get way more of a lovely rollout from people in the mainstream media. You can see, as we go to the break, remembering Henry Kissinger, and they're going to put a picture up of him and with a white background and flowers, and it's going to have the date for Henry Kissinger over there.
Yep.
But Gravel, just look at the way they treat him. This is something that Caitlin Johnson put up. I love that you can always tell how inconvenient someone was for the powerful just by reading the Washington Post headline about their death. And look what it says. Mike Gravel, Gadfly, is that how you say it? Gadfly? Gadfly senator, thank you so much, from Alaska, with the flair for theatrical, dies at 91 for the flair of theatrical.
Ironically,
the Pentagon
because
papers are theatrical.
The ones who have a flair for the theatrical are the ones in power right now, are the ones that had a whole little performance about January 6th. Those people have a flair for the theatrical. This guy was actually fucking genuine.
He's doing what they needed to be done. That's not theatrics what Gravel done. Gravel got pissed off and said what he had to say because somebody had to fucking say it.
Somebody did.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that we can all agree, and I'm relatively certain that the majority of your audience would agree that the Washington Post exists more at this point to line bird cages and fish than it really does to do anything to inform. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee, we just bring it back to how John McCain was celebrated.
Yeah.
And John McCain had a job because he couldn't fly and got caught trying to commit a war crime.
Yeah.
That's why we gave him a job in Congress, is because he failed at his mission, which was to go commit a war crime, because he was so bad at the job that he had as legacy son of the admiral.
Yeah.
Which is the whole fucking reason they allowed him in a plane in the first place. But he was so bad at that job that he got caught. Couldn't even successfully pull off the war crime. So he got tortured for what he was doing, which again, going to commit war crimes. I'm not condoning torture. I can understand. That's what I'm saying. Now, he gained notoriety for being the senator who didn't want MLK Day to become a federal holiday, a national holiday. That's what really kind of catapulted John McCain onto the stage. Not the fact that he was shitty at committing war crimes. He was, presented as a war hero because, again, he sucked at his job. But elevated nonetheless. So, elevated further because of his racism. And then some really weird posturing about campaign finance and riding on Russ Feingold's coattails for, 20 years. And he's given the equivalent of a royal funeral. And Mike Gravel, who actually helped, give us a clear picture of what people like John McCain were up to. Yeah. And a permanent record of what people like John McCain are up to gets... He had a flair for the theatrical.
Yeah.
As if he's the only person who ever set up to do a filibuster as well.
Yeah. Do you know the thing that McCain really got a lot of play on to, as well as from the people on the left saying he's a decent human being, is when he was at a rally and they were handing the microphone out and asking questions, and somebody was going after Obama saying he was a Muslim and the birther thing and whatnot, and he was like, no sir, he took the microphone away. He happens to be a decent human being and a family man, and I just disagree with him on politics, and he walked away. But the left just ate that shit up so hardcore. Like, look at John, he's a decent human being. Yep. Meanwhile, Caitlin Johnson was pointing out the fact that this guy was a warmongering fucking psycho.
Warmongers protect each other.
Exactly.
So,
it's disgusting.
It's part of it. Another thing that goes right along with what Steve's saying is the aspect of the warmongering, right? Because I don't think we showed this. So
we're about to, this
is when Joy Reid, right? Joy Reid is arguing in favor of maintaining
Steve's
the bloated
about to commit a
military
hate
budget.
crime.
Maintaining this bloated military budget, okay? I would have a really hard time differentiating her from a neocon if I didn't know who she was. I'd be like, wait a minute, who's the neocon here? Yeah. Because she's actually criticizing Republicans who want to defund the military.
Yeah.
And what world do we live in? I mean, now we're used to this. We said, it's been topsy-turvy, it's been upside down, but guys, this is why you cannot defend Democrats or pat yourself on the back for voting for any Democrat, because you're complicit in this. You're pushing the squad, by pushing Nina Turner and all these people, you're perpetuating the existence of the mirage that is this duopoly, because we don't have two parties. Yeah. We don't. Okay, they don't run shit. So let's go ahead and just watch this clip. Did you want to say anything?
Well, I just want to say, remember when I sent this to you, fam? Because I saw many people retweet this tweet here by Moshe Temkin. The U.S. has no regional conflicts or threats. It has no geopolitical military tensions in the Western Hemisphere or anywhere near it. I'm not going to say who retweeted this, but I couldn't. I was like, wait a second, is he joking or something? And then I heard them speak, and I was like, wait a second. Are they joking? I had to send it to fam and go, fam, please tell me. I really, and if you just listen to the language at the end of the clip of what this woman's saying. Yeah. Here we have Mike Gravel, who just passed away, who read the Pentagon Papers, who said that world was full of shit. Listen to the way the Democrats, everything, it's come full friggin' circle.
They're
like our guest always says, we live in a cartoon. Take a look at this clip.
Representative Houlihan, I guess that I'll throw it to you. Are Democrats prepared to go out there and explain to voters that it's Republicans who now want to defund the military? They tried to use defund the police, which is, by the way, DOA as a thing, right? Look at New York City, where they just elected the most pro-cop person to be mayor, or at least they're close to it. That's not a thing. Defund the military is a thing. They're saying it on Fox.
Yeah, and I want to back all the way up because I hadn't seen those tweets that you referred to about the Viet Cong, and I'm literally nauseous. My father fought in Vietnam, my grandfather in Korea. The idea that we can be trolling and not understanding the consequences of this. One of the things that struck me about General Milley's testimony yesterday was a continued reminder that from him that not just the people in that room are listening to the things that we're saying, and not just the people who are watching Fox News or this show are listening. When we're talking about defunding the military, the very thing that allows us to be the people we are, say the things that we're saying, and to be the nation that we are and the democracy that we are, other people are listening. Our enemies are listening. And I think what's remarkable about the Democratic Party right now is that we get it. We get it certainly much more than the Republican Party does right now. Yeah. And it's an important differentiation and distinction that we need to be making.
Are you fucking... I mean, guys, the things that allow us to do the things we do, to say the things we want, the freedoms we have, this is a Democratic congresswoman from Pennsylvania. That reminds me of a neocon.
That's a neocon.
During the Iraq war. We got to kill them over there before they kill us over here, Mr. Poikinen.
You can't tell because I thought I may have to filibuster the show today, so I am wearing my Mike Gravel brand adult diapers, but I just came buckets with a full-on wargasm listening to I don't even know who that woman is.
She's a Democratic congresswoman from Pennsylvania.
Wow, that's heavy. She sounds like Lindsey Graham's foreign policy, advisor. She sounds
a little like McCain. My dad was in Vietnam and Korea.
She sounds like she should be posing with an AR-15 for the aesthetic. And don't get me wrong, I support gun ownership. I do. I'm just saying, for the aesthetic that she's going for in that rhetoric, she is aiming as a sitting congresswoman to get the deplorable market. You know what I mean? That's who she's going for right there, are the people that they just spent the last 5-6 years demonizing.
Exactly. It's baffling, but I mean, this has been a long time coming. This is what we've been saying when you can't do this anymore. You can't play team sports. It's one fucking team.
Yeah.
And they're lying to you. And it's ridiculous. By the way, she deserves more attention for what she just said there than Marjorie Taylor Greene for being a complete tool for the culture war right with AOC's bullshit, which we'll get to, by the way, because it's like I'm in high school again, and it's ridiculous. And so where's the criticism for this woman? Yeah. Where she is spewing nationalist, neocon, pro-war talking points and she is saying it in a liberal mainstream media outlet with a black woman, as I have to point that out, pushing this whole anti-defund the military. When, hello, who do you think trains the cops? Who do you think trains our law enforcement? Are you, they know exactly what they're doing.
And I want to point out, and I wish I had it on, but my defund the Pentagon shirt, which Johnny Buttons himself gave to me, that it is certainly not a position wholly owned by the Republican Party, and it's fascinating that even if they were trolling, right, which is what the congresswoman was suggesting, even if they are, that conversation is being had in the across every subset of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
It's moving up into certain parts of the GOP.
Yeah.
The only place that defund the Pentagon isn't happening as a conversation is within the establishment of the Democratic Party and the satellite, I guess, I don't know, what's a good bottom feeder? A remora? Whatever the progressive like the little progressive satellites around the Democratic Party that act as sort of limited hangout sheepdog collection agencies.
Yeah.
And they're not talking about defund the Pentagon in any sort of real sense. And you know what? That woman was right. New York heard the defund the police as a slogan, had no idea what it meant, watched the overreaction and the intentional overcorrection on the part of the police force, who was like, okay, we'll just back off a little bit. We'll see how you like it, you know? And you can't pull back from police without addressing all of the underlying fucking conditions, and nobody's doing that. And you can't do that in a slogan like defund the police, because it's 3 words. It looks great on a bumper sticker, but it's a way more in-depth conversation.
Exactly.
I think a lot of neocons, too, on the right-wing establishment, they've gone back to their neocon ways. Well, they've throttled it. They've hit it up a little bit more. They got back to their normal business. They were kind of staying quiet with their talks when Donald Trump was saying, there's a military-industrial complex. The generals don't like me because they want endless war, but the soldiers love me.
Well, and now they got their buddy back. They got Joey B. They got Camilla Reed. They do
all
the
those
fucking
same people, the Blinkens and Sullivans and the Victoria Nulands, the warmongering boys and girls are back.
Margaret Kimberly, bless her, called Anthony Blinken the skinny Pompeo.
Oh, that's great.
That's
great, Margaret Kimberly.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And also this talk, like, I did this thread the other day, Steve. We did a show on it. I sat and I watched. It wasn't a long hearing. Most of these hearings are long. This particular hearing was about an hour and 45 minutes of my time, as opposed to like 5-hour hearings. But it was a hearing on sanctions and how we apply them to bad actors and foreign adversaries that are getting around our sanctions. So they concentrated on cryptocurrency. But the thing I brought to the table was to say, listen, we've even had Tulsi here to talk about sanctions, and she mentioned that there's no mechanism or reports that go to Congress that actually show you the actual effect of how sanctions affect people. We've looked into it. We've seen how it kills hundreds of thousands of people. Here's Mike Gravel. He was on the Jimmy Dore show 2 years ago, and he was saying sanctions are an act of war. And since I've heard Mike Gravel say it, I was able to say that. Sanctions are an act of war. Here's a little clip, very important.
We didn't go to war in Syria. We did clandestine war, but not a stated war. And
but that's war. But Jimmy, that's war. And when we do these sanctions, that's war.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it. We're killing about 40,000 plus kids in Venezuela right today as we talk. And to kill that many people and say that that's not war is really burying your head in the sands. And we do the same thing. You recall what happened under Bill Clinton. We killed 500,000 kids, and Madeleine Albright said
it was worth it.
That's what they call collateral damage. This is not collateral damage. We go around the world and sanction people at will if they don't really hone to our leadership. Now, of course, the tyrants, they just suck up to us, and we protect them, and we don't talk about any sanctions. The use of sanctions is the abuse of our having the dollar is the tool of global monetary system.
And actually, just is that it?
Yeah, that was it. That was it in a nutshell. Just talking about what sanctions are and what they do.
And and sanctions hurt people so badly in the global south in particular, to the point where in Venezuela they're using the bolivar, which was the original currency they used. They're no longer using. They're using the dollar because the bolivar isn't worth anything anymore. And so then people don't understand that. Even if they're living in these conditions, a lot of them are like don't understand, and they blame their government when it's really the United States doing it. And it really just creates a whole reason as to why a lot of these governments can't ever function, because you can't even implement anything remotely close to communism or anything like that, or any leftist ideology really. And then you have the pushback of authoritarianism coming in as well. And so it's just really sanctions they devastate an entire generations of people, I think, to that degree.
Yeah, and this last tweet, I just wanted to show this last video too as well, but Mike from PA said it well. Don't anyone forget that the DNC changed the rules to keep Mike Gravel off the debate stage and later changed the rules then again to get billionaire Michael Bloomberg into the debates. You know what I'm saying? R.I.P. Mike Gravel, an American hero. This is the ad that the establishment raged against, and I think it's just a great way to go out with this segment.
Are being killed as I speak to you tonight. Killed as a direct result. Human beings are being killed as I speak to you tonight. Killed as a direct result of policy decisions we as a body have made.
This approach of war on drugs has not succeeded. We've spent billions of dollars on it.
And we fill up our prisons to the point where we're the embarrassment of the world. We're supposed to be a democracy. We've got more people in prison, 2.3 million people in prison.
We spend more as a nation on defense than all the rest of the world put together.
This whole nation should be a sanctuary for the world. I'm ashamed as an American to be building a fence on our southern border. That's not the America that I fought for.
Our soldiers died in Vietnam in vain. You can now, John, go to Hanoi and get a Baskin-Robbins ice cream cone.
Why do they hate us so in so many places around the world? Because we kill so many people wantonly.
Oh, Joe, I'll include you too. You have a certain arrogance. You wanna tell the Iraqis how to run their country.
And we can get off of gasoline in 5 years, and we can get off of carbon in 10 years. All we got to do is want to do it.
Just please get out. It's their country. They're asking us to leave, and we insist on staying there. The military-industrial complex not only controls our government, lock, stock, and barrel, but they control our culture.
Okay, so what a way to go out with Mike Gravel. Awesome video. By the way, thank you to Roar Media. I'm melting. Oh, what a world, what a world, what a world. Climate crisis ground zero today in the Pacific Northwest. Tomorrow it may be you. And, of course, we have Shadowban refugees in the house. Steve shows up. Shadowban follows. Gonna have to wean the fam off Steve smoothies. You got smoothies, Steve's? Let's start with Mike Gravel was an un-American commie nut job that hates us for our freedoms. And Epstein, McAfee, the building in Florida, and Building 7 most definitely killed themselves, okay? It was nobody's fault. Nothing to see there. Smoothies are bad. And follow me to the Dong Copter Bliss.
Dong Copter Army, stand up.
And Jindo, thank you for the super rate contribution. Is always appreciated on the couch. Embold Fate. Strange seeing Biden gladly raise his hand when Gravel forgot to mention him. I thought Biden said he got tricked into the Iraq war, right? But he was okay. Yeah, we were over here. Based on that reaction and what he did in Syria yesterday, I'd say he's aroused by war and ready to start another one. That is so true about the man. All right, so we're not on Rokfin, Johnny, or we're not. We're only on YouTube. Guys, sorry, there's issues. Thank you for joining on the YouTube. So we'll stay over here. Steve Cutler, Shadow Band, Julie Love, Steve McCormick, everybody back in. Lucky Burritos here. I see you. Thank you so much. Let's just jump in to the next subject, ma'am.
Right.
So what's going on?
So AOC, of course, surprisingly, once again, is betraying the left with her whole reduce Medicare instead of Medicare for all. Now, she campaigned. The reason this is such a big deal is because she campaigned with a lot of poor people's money, a lot of working class people who gave her money. She wore masks that said Medicare for all. She weaponized this whole and profited off of being this, I'm going to get you Medicare for all. I'm going to fight for 15, all this stuff. We all know the force of vote. We don't have to go over it again. She didn't do that. And now she went on Meet the Press. And basically, if you look at her language, we don't have to watch the whole thing. We're only going to watch a few, like a minute and a half of it or less. But she basically is running, again, PR for the Biden administration, criticizing him when she's allowed to criticize him, but really falling in line every single time. And a lot of people completely just ignored this. A lot of her defenders online ignored this and instead focused on smearing organizers who are trying to do direct action for Medicare for all. Whether you agree with Medicare for all or not, the fact that people are doing something to get something done is more than what's been done before. And so here it's at 53 seconds to 2 minutes. Johnny is a YouTube video for Meet the Press. Okay, 1 second.
What he said on Thursday seemed to cheer progressives. Do you think are you a little upset by the walk back that he made yesterday, or do you consider it a walk back at all?
I think regardless of the president's statements, there are 3 key chess pieces that we need to align to pass any legislation. As we know, there's the Senate, there's the House, and there's the White House, there's the presidency. And so I believe that, the president is more than able to take his own approach, but I believe that we also have to talk about this missing piece, which is the House. And I believe that in the House and House Democrats are very committed to making sure that, in Senator Cassidy's words, that infrastructure is very centered on women. And in addition to a bridge, you need a babysitter. And it's very important that we pass a reconciliation bill and a families plan that expands child care, that lowers the cost of Medicare, that supports families in the economy.
Would you like the president to be issuing a veto?
She sounds like Elizabeth Warren. Legit. I mean, she sounds like Elizabeth Warren. Or perhaps worse. She sounds like Nancy Pelosi 30 years ago when Nancy Pelosi was saying that we would get health care and 30 years later. I mean, she sounds different. She sounds more like a shitlib, if that's possible. More just making excuses. Yeah, like it's almost like she's not enjoying this. Like her face is very robotic. It's just really I was like, this is so weird. Chess pieces and this and that. Like it. I don't know.
Steve, give us your thoughts on the theater just performed to us by AOC. The theater, sir.
Sandy is an Instagram influencer with a seat in Congress, and she's behaving exactly like an Instagram influencer who got elected to Congress, who now has to go out and say whatever shitty, stupid, completely removed from whatever you built your brand on, and have bilked all these poor, well-meaning, 100% the most gullible section of the entire political spectrum ever in the Progressive Party, in the DSA left. Most gullible. I realize there are people who thought that Donald Trump was hand-selected by Jesus to lead the game. I'm saying that the progressives are more gullible than those people because they're still going to give Sandy their money.
Yeah.
They are. And she's doing this because she has to, if she wants to keep getting all of the favors that she'll be getting from the Democratic Party and from Nancy Pelosi going forward. I said it and got shit for it in real time as soon as they started campaigning, and as soon as they were, especially when they were sworn in as that next Congress. AOC and the squad is here to inherit Nancy Pelosi's power, not take it away from her. And if you can't understand this, it's going to be a really tough, however long until you figure it out going forward.
Yeah. I mean, well, half of the crap that we get is because of our pushback against, what do you call her? What's her name?
Sandy.
Okay, yeah. Half of the tension, the crap we get is because of that, because we call out those things that we've seen in real time since for God knows how long. And, but it is kind of disheartening that you see a lot of Trump people who are still praising him and the progressives that are praising Sandy. It's just
and it was Sandy. It was
by
Sandy
design.
Cortez with an S when she was going to private school.
Yeah. I
The acceptable spelling of
Looked into all
Cortez,
that.
the white passing spelling of Cortez, which is like a real fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's why I like having Steve on the show. He gives you even new and more exciting ways. Just when you thought you've done everything and you said everything that you can possibly call the squad, Steve presents another angle. Thank you, Steve. We love you.
Q have somebody saying that's a right-wing talking point because some Republicans
It's going to be.
said it.
It's probably being dropped on Twitter as we speak.
So Michael,
I have been called the gateway to the alt-right.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
have.
here you go. Welcome,
Gateway
Steve.
drug to the alt-right. That's
Christ.
I'm not fucking kidding. I was one of Campbell's little fucking shitworms.
Shitlibs. Michael David, what a name, said AOC on Meet the Press just now, we have to pass legislation to make Medicare more affordable. Mama Bear is so proud of her baby bear.
Aww.
Mama Bear. Okay.
Baby bear getting bear getting two.
Yeah.
I don't want
scoops of that Jenny's ice cream.
I don't know why somebody didn't have
That's
like a
what the
meme.
baby bear gets.
I just
she
wanna
might get
show
two
this
whole
picture,
pints
Johnny.
sent to her, special from Mama. Mama
There
Bear
she is.
might be giving her own little mini freezer full of Jenny's
Yeah.
for the hard work she's been putting in.
They should show that meme of the bear helping its baby bear out of the pool, saying, "Here you go, Sandy. Let me help
that
you
up
out."
on screen now for the good folks at home.
Yes, it
Johnny?
is.
Oh, it's beautiful, dude. That is. It's
I don't know who did this meme, but
good work.
Thank
feed
you.
them.
We redistribute the memes. I mean, this just says everything you need to know because Nancy Pelosi advocated for healthcare for all, universal healthcare years ago.
Yep.
AOC is following in her steps, like Steve said. She's replacing.
signs in my basement too. I'm fucking Skeletor.
Those who don't learn history are doomed to repeat it. It is the same exact thing.
It's the same exact thing.
I've been telling people for years now, Americans as a rule don't know our own history, let alone the history of any other fucking country, and it's going to bite us in the ass every single time. The whole reason that I value each and every moment that we've had with Reverend Annie is because she's living goddamn history.
Yeah.
And it's living history from the version you're not allowed to see when you're growing up. Like Howard Zinn would be happy about that. He would be. I heard Howard Zinn evoked at the Home Run for Julian event in Oakland. Alice Walker, the poet, brought him up, and nobody talked. Like I see lip service paid to the fact that Howard Zinn wrote People's History of the United States, but for all of these read theory motherfuckers and shit like that, you don't see them incorporating any actual real United States history and apply it in terms of their read theory motherfucker. It's the disconnect is
because it's done for
weird.
elitist back patting rather than for actually trying to learn something. It's done to be able to say, oh, I am an intellectual, I have read this, rather than to actually humble yourself and be like, oh, I learned something new I didn't know, and now I'm going to pick up something else that may be something different. I don't know, but they can't do that because they have to stay in their own little bubbles. And this is why you don't play team sports, Steve. And I have to point this out because this has been dominating the internet back and forth for months now, right? AOC going at it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not a fan of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not a fan of AOC. I think both of them are tools that allow these culture war vultures to use them to continue this high school back and forth drama. And this is what I said. I said it's wonderful to see our hardworking Congress members. By the way, we pay them $174,000 a year, focusing on America's most pressing issues like height and inaccurate juvenile name calling, because we know AOC is nowhere near a communist. She's nowhere near a leftist. She's a typical PR politician, on point for the reality TV trash American politics has festered into, because look at who was our president. Look, Instagram influencers, right, are now Congress members. And then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene calling her a commie. You have AOC talking about being taller than Marjorie Taylor Greene. And then you have this whole back and forth, and you have people on both ends of the spectrum of the aisle paying attention and trying to prop up one or the other, saying this one's bad, but this one isn't. It's this one's fault. What the fuck why aren't we talking about what the Biden administration is doing? Why aren't you pushing out legislation to counteract that?
Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock.
Exactly. Because Stone Cold says so.
But it is.
It is.
That's exactly what that. It's fucking. This is WWE shit.
It is.
It is. And if you like, from an entertainment perspective, like, that's adorable. That's fucking hilarious. And I'm kind of wet right now. I am. No lie. But like, for people who are pretending to be or ostensibly supposed to be, in a sense, in charge of all of our day-to-day lives, to be doing this WWE shit. Not only is it insulting and degrading to the intent of governance in the fucking first place, not that I'm personally paying a lot of lip service to that, but I believe that there are people who believe in, you know, the United States as a representative republic and shit like that. The marketing. Right? But for them to be carrying on like this when they're supposed to actually be doing anything other shows you that it's all a fucking production.
Yeah.
This is the government we're allowed to see.
Yeah. And a lot of the people that jump into all these conversations, as I was reading some of their comments, are like the people you see at a wrestling match. They actually think it's real in the audience and stuff. And seeing all the way the Sam Cedar Crowder situation and stuff like that.
Yep.
It just reminds me of that scene from Spaceballs when he goes, "How many assholes I got on this thing?" And everybody goes, "Hey!" All of them. He goes, "Jesus Christ, I'm surrounded by assholes." All right, put your helmet down. Keep firing, asshole. You just got to go with it because we are surrounded by assholes, and people buying into this shit is just watching people argue on this, reading the thread, it was like, this is ridiculous here. We cannot be saved. Plug me back into the Matrix. Plug me back in.
So while this is happening, while AOC is throwing out, you know, healthcare for all, there were people that organized a march for Medicare for all. And I have to bring this up because, you know, I support direct action. We've said it on the show. Whether or not that does anything right now at this point that we are, you know, pretty much entering fascism, right? With what's happening with labeling everybody a white domestic terrorist, labeling everybody a radical, with the technocratic takeover that's happening, with the whole vaccine propaganda and how that was completely just manipulated and used to cause fear in people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People are organizing to get the things they want, whether it's for Julian Assange or Medicare for all. Now, I think that's great. And so what happened was an infiltrator of sorts got into this group, posted an image of a white nationalist guy being a speaker. And of course, the usual people that have been trashing this thing since its inception are using it to say, don't trust this organization, cancel everything, don't do direct action. And I think that's, first of all, I think that those people were the ones who did it. Second of all, this is all by design. You cannot let these people dictate the narrative. You cannot let these people push you out of focus. If you're going to do something, do it. These people will never like you. They will never accept you. You don't want their support. Like, you at this point, you don't. You're just got to do the things you got to do. So I just wanted to go over this thread on the march for Medicare for all, huh?
I just want to give some context.
There
is a march for Medicare for all happening. It's a national event that's going to happen on July.
End of July, right?
End of July,
Yep.
I think it was 24th. And then somebody online posted, it looks like an infiltrator who got in and posted a post about a keynote speaker happening in Indiana. And they posted that on IG or something in Twitter.
Instagram,
and
yep.
And then there was a bunch of backlash because the speaker is like a nationalist or something like that.
Right.
So now you can talk.
So I wanted to read the
Douchebag
thread.
from Muncie gonna fuck it all up. You're gonna let one And I mean, okay, let me tell you guys something, because I grew up in Anderson, Indiana, which is a town that neighbors Muncie, Indiana. That's where Ball State University is. One of America's more notoriously drunk campuses. Party school. It's a party school. And famous for it. And being a teenager with friends that were at that university.
Pretty awesome, I bet. Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic. I remember being high as fuck on LSD, like being at the little pizza place on campus, trying to pay for shit, just yarding out all of the stuff in my pockets. There's like a bag of weed and a glass pipe, shit like this. Fucking 1990, fucking hardcore jail time for it. Just Anyway, it is in many ways still very segregated. Muncie is. There's a more hardcore racist element that is in the outlying areas around Muncie. It's one county away from where the former Klan capital of the state was. So it doesn't surprise me at all that something like this would happen. But as organizers, we know that shit like this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And they already put out a statement. Mm-hmm. They have already made it very clear that that particular all of these chapters are organizing independently and encouraged to do so, but that's not what we stand for. They're doing everything right, but what is happening that is crazy is that the people who are supposedly supportive of the event and of why it's happening are picking apart everyone.
Yep.
And so that makes it seem like it was orchestrated by some of the people who are doing the loudest picking apart of everyone, when they know full and well that dude, that event, that particular chapter, or whatever they are, does not speak for the entire Medicare for All movement or the national organization, so it's making mountains out of, I don't know, dude, like mouse holes, not even mole, it's fucking
smaller than molehills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to read it real quick. They said our national collective voted to shut down the event in Muncie, Indiana, in all capacities. March for Medicare for All no longer has any affiliation with the event in Muncie. We unequivocally condemn and denounce the planners in Muncie who made this choice to have the person currently known as Matt H. Bach as a keynote speaker. The Muncie organizers did not go through the proper channels, and the graphic design volunteers weren't aware. The person who submitted the photos to our design team has since disappeared from our workspace. The account disappeared completely. By the way, in case you guys didn't know, if you clicked on the account, it's not there. Over the last several weeks, we have been bombarded with infiltrators wishing to cause confusion and derail this movement. Our volunteers are working diligently to fix the situation and will be setting up new procedures to ensure this does not happen again. While our grassroots volunteers have the freedom to make their own local choices independently, the values of the keynote speaker of the Muncie event did not reflect the rest of the movement at large. March for Medicare for All takes pride in being a non-hierarchical, non-partisan group which attempts to be inclusive as possible. However, the safety of our volunteers and those we are fighting for comes first. So there you go. That was their statement, and they have where is it? They have an actual press release they released. It's right here. It should be right here.
There, he's got it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it pretty much, I'm kind of a little bit torn on this, but they said Matthew Heimbach is an absolutely disgusting human being who holds a deplorable and unacceptable belief of white nationalism and is a white nationalist / Nazi. We unequivocally condemn the white nationalism in any capacity. We are disgusted by the actions of the Muncie organizers who acted independently and purposely tried to derail and infiltrate our movement. The National Steering Committee had no knowledge of him until it was brought up to our attention. All events in Muncie have been shut down. Blah, blah, blah. Our organization strongly stands against and condemns all forms of racism, white nationalism, Nazism, bigotry. There's zero tolerance for hate within our organization. I don't know very much about who this guy is.
Who is this guy?
But I just think sometimes
some dude named Matt who was a douchebag.
Yeah. So, no, I don't know. I don't know anything about this guy, but I just want to say, I agree with Steve. They're making some people are making a mountain out of a molehill, and you can't validate what these people are saying, because what these people, they have been doing this from the beginning. From the force of vote, these people that have been attacking the organizers because for even having Misty as involved, or having Rome as involved, or even me liking or commenting on something, they keep saying they're aligning with Nazis, Fash Fam, Red Brown, all this stuff. You can't give credence to what those people are saying, is all I'm saying. And sometimes I feel like some people have. By making this such a big deal. It really it happens. As organizers, you should know it happens. Infiltrations happen all the time. And that's that I wanted to say on that, in terms of I wanted to show Misty's status as well, because Misty really had a really great tweet. She said, people that attack hardworking activists and organizers who are trying their best and with very little resources are some of the most despicable cretins around. Do nothing shitbags. I stand in solidarity with the organizers of Medicare for All, March for Medicare for All. They took on a huge responsibility for us. There will always be infiltrators. That's an unfortunate fact. There will also always be people who seek to destroy through other means, like infantile attacks from their couches behind a keyboard. These clowns aren't doing the work. Support those who do. Right. And you have to be careful of in your effort to clean up the mess, don't validate these people. Don't validate what the attacks are saying. That's all I got to say on that. I don't know if any of you have any other comments, but
please, Steve, go right ahead.
No, dude, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
It already happened. I don't need to. I would just be unnecessarily dragging someone who, I think could probably get the picture if the brand that he had settled into hadn't become his identity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it amounts to, and I think that so many people have done that, have let their brand define who they have to be.
Right. Or their ideology first.
Well, but I mean,
which is
for that
part
person,
of the brand.
It's I mean, there's fucking books and shit. It's, a fucking brand. And I guarantee you that dude, in his own mind, and so many of these other people in their own minds, in their quiet moments, hate the fact that their ideology has to determine how they behave, and not the other way around.
Right.
The way they behave is what allows them to build and have an ideology and find one that, agrees with what your natural perspective is, and that can come through a lot of learning. It can come through a lot of studying. What it can also, and it has to come from, is practical application. And there's none of that with the fucking keyboard people. And if you're only going to somebody else's event that you got a t-shirt for, and they said, okay, you're a volunteer and you're a part of this, and that's your only experience, if it's inside a political movement of activism, you're not going to be able to identify with what's going on, with what happened with those organizers, with what happened with the national organizing. What is it? Experience determines scope of relatability.
Yeah. Just moving along, I just want to say, look, the left is never going to get anything if they nitpick as to, this person talked to a Boogaloo boy, this person is that, this person once voted for a libertarian. You're never going to fucking achieve anything at all, period, end of story.
Point of personal privilege, Fee, that language is hostile.
It's a working class fucking revolution, motherfucker. It's a working class revolution. The working class includes people you won't agree with, people who voted for the wrong person. The working class is still learning.
Point of personal privilege. This is violence, and
It is violence. I got my ass kicked by a noun last week.
Jesus
Came right out
Christ.
of nowhere and beat the shit out of me.
God damn it,
But it's the hypocrisy that just drives me crazy.
Well, the left is their own worst enemy.
It says,
they really
this
are.
person is. I heard he was an ex-Bright BART employee, this gentleman, whatever, and everything like that. Oh, he's a Nazi. You can't work for him. But yay, go AOC and the squad. Has AOC and the squad said shit about fucking Ukraine getting funded by us left and right? That our foreign policy intertwines with actual Nazis that we're supporting?
Look, I'm not advocating for people to work.
Nazis? No,
I'm not advocating for people to work with people that are problematic. I'm just saying.
She had a lot to say about
there's
the
a lot of
Ukrainian neo-Nazi journalist, Romanian neo-Nazi journalist.
Alex Navalny?
No, well, and Navalny.
No.
Roman, what was his name? Petra.
I can't even say his name. The plane that was downed on the way, we had George Somwali on here.
About that. Yeah. Shit about Julian Assange.
Yeah. That dude who was actually fought against the citizens of the Donbass. Part of the Azov battalion, which is a neo-Nazi fashion. Yeah. So, but yeah, they literally, and Navalny too, who's a nationalist who called people in the Caucasus cockroaches. But that's, let's have some consistency here, right? Please.
We don't have the Rokfin up, so.
Well, Johnny wants to read this.
Okay.
Bring this up real quick.
There it is. All right. Okay, so March for Medicare for All, July 24th, 2021. There are marches everywhere across the country, and I do applaud the organization for being decentralized. That is the best way to organize, decentralized. But also, of course, you're going to run into issues. It's normal. It's not the end of the world. Bullying people for something that happened is ridiculous and disgusting, and some people are really upset. And it's just bad. So overall, just I continue to support this march, and anybody that does direct action for things. I think it's absolutely admirable at this point. So, guys,
this should be on every college campus.
Yeah,
it should be. Like, just as a boilerplate, very basic issue, and I think a lot of why it's not is because everybody spent a year and a half on lockdown.
Yeah.
The event that we were at yesterday, outdoors.
Yeah. We'll get into that if you want, but
I don't know. I mean, I know that at least for the Bay Area events, it really was pulling teeth to try to get let indoors anywhere, and it's because they went through their contact list and went to all the usual spots that would have let anybody hold an event, and because those people are still super freaked out and super into the narrative, so when it's getting caught in that like bubble of only talking to a handful of people with your activism because that's who you've always worked with. We were kind of talking about this where so many of the people that are making ground-based decisions are removed entirely from that in the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And they would be of so much more value at this point in an advisory capacity, in
liaise.
Yes.
Just liaise, baby.
That's a
liaise.
Wonderful way to put it, Pasta, and I'm glad that you just came up with that off the top of your head just now.
I'm witty like that. I'm silly.
You are, my friend.
I know.
You are.
And pass the torch to Eric Swalwell, right?
Yeah, Eric, like Eric Swalwell said. Yeah, pass the torch. But my point is that like we could have found a spot to do it indoors.
Of course.
We already did in the middle of lockdown. We could have done that the same in Oakland, and to their credit, the Islamic Cultural Center of Northern California in Oakland is one of the more beautiful buildings that I've been in, and the people that helped us with the event couldn't have been like nicer and more helpful, and we're like, why are all these people wearing masks? You know? But again, it was, people were double masked and proud. Shout out to Gaina Fauci, by the way.
Gaina Fauci, what a great guy.
Got to meet that
an
fella.
Irishman, a lad from Ireland, I heard.
He's a fucking big fella. He is.
Well, at this time, I'd usually be reading Super Rays, but we can't, so I guess we have to move on to the next subject.
Yeah, and so while all this shit was happening, guys, all this distraction, right, was happening, the U.S. conducted an airstrike against Iran-backed militia groups in Iraq and Syria, between Iraq and Syria at the border, right? First of all, the United States is illegally occupying both Iraq and Syria. And Iran is another nation that they have been illegally occupying as well. And they always go to the excuse of Iran. Iran is involved, so we have to look into this, right? So... Okay, so the U.S. on Sunday conducted airstrikes on facilities along the Iraq-Syria border, right? Mm-hmm. And this is from the Pentagon. At President Biden's direction, U.S. military forces earlier this evening conducted defensive precision airstrikes against facilities used by Iran-backed militia groups in the Iraq-Syria border region. The Pentagon said the airstrikes targeted operational and weapons storage facilities, which Iran-backed militia groups Kataib Hezbollah and Kataib Saeed al-Shuhada, KSS, used to engage in unmanned aerial vehicle attacks against U.S. troops in Iraq. As demonstrated by this evening's strikes, President Biden has been clear that he will act to protect U.S. personnel. Given the ongoing series of attacks by Iran-backed groups targeting U.S. interests in Iraq, the president directed further military action to disrupt and deter such attacks. So the Pentagon said this. The Department of Defense added that the U.S. is in Iraq for the purpose of assisting Iraqi forces in their fight against the ISIS, or Islamic State, saying that they sent a clear message of attack. They said that the strikes were both necessary to address the threat of and appropriately limited in scope. As a matter of domestic law, the president took his action pursuant to the Article 2 authority to protect U.S. personnel in Iraq. So this is, of course, right before there's the consideration that we just went over, the consideration to repeal the AUMF, which of course was related to Iraq, guys. So this is what we were talking about. We were talking about the legislation with Johnny that Johnny had out, and now this happens. Tell me how Joe Biden has been less of a warmonger than Donald Trump. I mean, look at the police budget. Look at the money for the military. Look at the money we just gave to Israel. Look at the funding for the military industrial complex as a whole. And then, of course, look at the legislation he's trying to pass through when it comes to this fascistic takeover. So it's really scary, fam. And this all happened and people didn't bat an eye.
Yep.
They were like, oh, what? Oh, again? Okay.
Well, I mean, first of all, the statement in itself is false to say that it's Iran-backed militias and stuff.
They don't know that.
In Iraq, there are more Shia than Sunni. Right. You know what I'm saying? And these are the groups that oppose Al-Qaeda. These are the groups that opposed ISIS. These are the groups who opposed any form of the Mujahideen that tried to fight fanatics that tried to take over this land over here. So the fact that we're kind of spinning this right now, and it's once again, it reminds me of Americans. George Bush didn't know the difference between a Sunni and a Shia, right? And the American people went along with it. You know what I'm saying? And so they're going to go along with this right now. And the way they're spinning this, it's awful. And fam, to answer your question, he's been worse in foreign policy than Donald Trump. We knew it. The amping up of what happened in Ukraine right off the bat with Russia was disgusting. What's going on in the global south, disgusting. What's going on with El Salvador, disgusting. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, across the board, he's been worse than Donald Trump when it comes to foreign policy.
Yeah, and this isn't to say that he's better or worse than Trump. What we're trying to tell you is that this whole idea that people were mitigating damage by voting for one side or the other is completely just ridiculous. And at the end of the day, Joe Biden isn't calling the shots. Neither was Trump. Yep. And so when you understand that point, then everything else starts to fall into place. When you understand that they're just like puppets for the military and the Pentagon and these state agencies, then you're like, okay, how, of course, Joe, who can't even think for himself, is actually not in charge. Of course, these agencies are the ones in charge. And so it just really goes along with how America is so easily distracted. And so the media, the reason what's happening with Biden now is worse is because of the media, because the media isn't covering it. The media is trying to portray this as a good thing. We needed to do this to defend our democracy. And that's why it's more dangerous under a Biden administration, because of the media pacifying everything and allowing this cryptic fascism. And because of people like, really quickly, Cory Bush, who is just so fucking goddamn excited for legislation that is going to take away more of our rights, right? She says tomorrow we're unveiling the People's Response Act to transform public safety in our country. We're going to need all hands on deck. Are y'all ready? Like she wants to continue pushing this Orwellian legislation from January 6th, right? That was used from January 6th to take away our rights and under the guise of white domestic terrorism. It is predictable, as we said.
Yeah, and she had nothing for foreign policy on her webpage from the get-go and whatnot, and that's what we get right now. We get more detachment from the progressive crowd from foreign policy, and then the wokeness comes in. That's what they're using to justify their war movies. Oh, we're going out to bomb people who don't believe in gay rights or gay marriage, and they're against abortion, and they want to, they don't want to legalize marijuana, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like this woke leftist. Forget about the fact that a lot of these countries in the global south are economically left. They want to give more rights to workers, to give more everyday people fucking resources so they can live. That doesn't make a difference, in fact. They're against gay marriage. It's a form of American exceptionalism, and it's disgusting that they get away with it. And I know what you guys pulled up over here, right? You're going to play this? Wesley Clark. This was one of the things that really changed me, and you were like, holy shit. We have psychos that are really driving the bus, that are in control over here. They already have a plan out there. And how come this didn't shock the public? How come this didn't get people more engaged? How come this didn't get progressives more engaged in foreign policy?
Well, it got memory hold, and it's stuck on RT now.
Oh. We got to bypass the memory.
Iraq, not Iran. I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
And you can pull this off when you don't have a well-informed public who doesn't pay attention to foreign policy. When people say our foreign policy is our domestic policy, man, it's moments like this. I mean, it's disgusting. Because as he's saying that, you're thinking millions of people who will be murdered, maimed, and their lives destroyed. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Any final comments before we get on to your area of expertise?
On the attacks of, on Syria and Iraq border.
I mean, we told you on Slow News Day back in immediately after the election, whatever that episode was, that we had Vanessa Beeley back, and she had just written an article called "The Trump-Biden Doctrine for Israel Going Forward." And Vanessa said, because the Biden administration is coming back, because he's part of the gang that started the illegal war in Syria, that it's going, like, everyone in country was just prepared They were just they were 100% afraid of and expecting at any moment, and upscaling what is best described as settler colonialism at the point of a gun. And it's coming from Israel, it's coming from the UK, it's coming from France, and it's coming from the US. And people sit there and act like Rojava is somehow not like a complete and total CIA built and led and orchestrated operation within the green zone of the U.S. military's illegally occupied territory in Syria. This is where your anarchist utopia freedom fighter experience happens. Really? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. But I mean, go look at anything Vanessa Beeley's written over the last 7 months. Look at any interview that she's done with us because she enjoys the show. Yeah, and you will have heard this being discussed. It's disgusting that there's no outcry, no form of semblance of resistance to this. Obama killed the anti-war left. You would think that someone further to the right than Donald Trump in Joe Biden would bring it back with shit like this. This is fucking George Bush cowboy shit.
Yeah. And that's why I think the people, the independent media people who said it was okay to vote for Biden over Donald Trump and then referring to the foreign policy aspect, but not deserves to get hit in
Shout
the
out
face.
to Eva Bartlett, who just sent me a DM this morning of a screenshot of one of those people.
Yes.
Like it was prescient. It was just prescient.
And they deserve to get hit across the face with a giant mackerel.
They know who I'm talking about.
Yes,
we
know.
No,
but
we don't stop. We know.
And giant mackerel.
And Vanessa Beeley did tell me that actually in one of the interviews I had with her. She said people are more afraid of a Trump, of a Biden administration here because of everything you just said. Like, I mean, it's just. It's so true. And again, the media plays a role. They propagandize people into not caring because these idiots just follow, even the ones who profess to be progressive, they just follow these people that repeat the same talking points, but with more perfect brand slogans that indicate that, oh, we're better, we're different, but they're really not. And so that's why, that's why this is happening.
Yeah. But before we get to the next video, just a couple more comments, too, on that as well. I mean, I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but we all remember that, like, whether it be theatrics or the real thing.
I mean, I think he's part of this whole
Iran,
thing.
that one time when they were egging him on to bomb Iran when they shot down the drone and stuff like that. But even still, it would take Donald Trump about 3 more terms. You'd have to add on terms for him to equate to the mess and the terrible decisions that Joe Biden has personally made when it comes to war.
Okay,
when it comes to war.
So I'm going to push back on that just a little bit because Trump did assassinate their most beloved and well-respected military figure in history. Yeah, and Soleimani. Under the flag, under a white flag, under a ruse of, parlayed conversation, and we thought we were going to World War III before they told the country about COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
We were all at No War on Iran protests 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, but like the whole fucking country was at a No War on Iran protest, and then 2 weeks later, nobody was allowed to leave their house.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's how this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, guys, has been weaponized against us.
Let's make sure we're still
from
on
the
YouTube.
moment the election was happening. Oh, coincidentally, Bernie Sanders was winning. Ooh, the next day, what happens? A set of events, and then the come on, guys.
Yeah. And I'm not.
That's all I'm gonna say. Come on, guys. We're not even on Rokfin now, but I gotta say those things because that's it's obvious now at this point. people have been talking about it for over a year now, but it's fucking obvious.
And I'm not making excuses for Donald Trump. I'm just saying Joe Biden has had a lot longer time in government of 47 years to make bad decisions, including pushing the regimes
We wouldn't
of
have
Iraq,
Trump
of Ukraine.
without Biden.
Exactly. So I'm just saying, to me, the only decision was none of the above, not either one of them.
Yeah.
That's it. Bottom line, simple, whatnot. So we met Mr. Shipton yesterday, who's Julian Assange's father. This is going to be some interesting stuff, too. We also have a clip by, I'm sorry, Anthony Reyes. I saw Anthony Reyes' comment. But let's get on to Steve's part over here. This is a little clip of Mr. Shipton kind of talking about the new information that's come to light when pertaining to a witness that has now changed the story. Here's Tune. Can you give us a little insight to the information of what happened yesterday with that new information that's come to light and maybe a new avenue forward for Julian's freedom?
Well, the witness for the FBI and the Department of Justice in their prosecution of Julian in London and the charges to bring Julian to the United States for 175 years jail, that witness turned turtle and said that he made it all up, and he, worse than that actually, he just had evidence that he made it all up, which indicates he had chat logs, which indicates that the FBI, when they went to Iceland and got him as a witness, didn't bother to do the due diligence required of the FBI for the Department of Justice and for the prosecutor. So we assume that the FBI and the prosecutor were hand in hand to bring a prosecution regardless of whether there was evidence or not.
He turned turtle, Steve.
Fuck Siggy. Fuck that sick pedophile sociopath fucking embezzling freak. Fuck that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And we've told you for years now that the FBI's one of their star witnesses was a convicted pedophile and a determined by Icelandic State Board of Health physicians a sociopath. He was hired by the FBI.
Yeah.
To infiltrate WikiLeaks and destabilize them from the inside. And got caught. He got caught impersonating Julian Assange. He got caught embezzling from WikiLeaks.
Yep. I want to read the beginning of this too, because Steve, I think there's more to it when you say this. You were saying that you guys have been telling us about this guy for a while. It's not the fact that they just used his statement. It's the fact they further protected him on his bad behavior of pedophilia.
Gave him immunity.
Yes. So go ahead and
for
rate
his
more
testimony.
boys. Yeah, little boys. A major witness in the United States Department of Justice case against Julian Assange has admitted to fabricating key accusations in the indictment against the WikiLeaks founder, and this is from the Stundin. The witness, who has a documented history of sociopathy and has received several convictions for sexual abuse of minors and wide-ranging financial fraud, made the admission in a newly published interview in Student, where he also confessed to having continued his crime spree. How do you say this word? Whilst working the Department of Justice
on that one,
and
boy.
FBI, and receiving a promise of immunity from prosecution whilst working with the Department of Justice. So continue to get protected. Be a protected pedophile.
Because the FBI is concerned for your safety, Pasta. So why wouldn't they let a pedophile keep pedophiling in Iceland?
Yep.
So that they can make sure that information is safeguarded and filtered correctly so as to not give you any sort of wrong think.
Yep.
Johnny, did you want to play your video real quick?
Yeah.
So.
Let this guy commit sex crimes with children so we can protect our war crimes from the public.
Yeah.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, here, you...
Mr. Shipton, nice to meet you. My name is Jonathan Mayorka. Yes, nice to meet you. So, I like to talk a lot about action, and this press panel was it's great, and then the national run that you guys are doing, that's a great thing that's going on. What else can the people do? The audience back home, what else can they do to get people to know about this? Talking about it more, protesting, right? And like, what places specifically do you think should be targeted as a protest place?
Well, the first element is just to examine and speak amongst yourself and your community and friends and raise awareness. The second one is it's practical. Take up a petition which concerns only those constituents of the congressional district that you belong to. Take that to your congressman. Get 20, 30, 100, 200, 400 signatures on a petition asking the Department of Justice to bring the persecution of Julian Assange to an end. That's sufficient. It works in Australia. It works in the United Kingdom. It works in Germany, France, Spain. I'm pretty sure that the United States, it'll work as well.
So get a petition going, get the representatives in your local district to get a petition going, to get signatures in for, and send it on in to Congress.
Yes, send it. Well, ask your congressman when he gets it to send it on to the Department of Justice, to Merrick Garland, because that's their responsibility, or the Judicial Committee of the Congress of the United States.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shipton. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good questions.
Okay, so one of the things that I do have to say is it may work in a lot of those countries, but we are an empire that is run by the state agencies that have every desire to silence Julian Assange, to make an example out of him.
And most of the countries that he listed are either currently involved in or were integral to
correct
the current state that Julian is in.
Exactly.
He's being incredibly diplomatic, and he's trying to make a point. But I agree.
No, yeah. I mean, what would you suggest, Steve? Because in my opinion, this Congress that we have before us is complicit in the jailing of Julian Assange. They're not going to change their minds, no matter how many letters you write, right? Yeah. So what is your, as an activist fighter for the freedom of Julian Assange and the freedom of press, what is your suggestion?
I think the only way that we can affect any of these fucking monsters in any way, shape, or form at this point is going to have to be economically. And if we don't develop systems of counter economics, if we don't find ways to opt out and safeguard ourselves from what all of these fucking psychopaths are telling us they're going to do to us, we're fucked. I mean, dude, the meme that Misty shared the other week where it's a metronome and it's spinning back and forth, and it's the activist metronome between hope and we're fucked.
Yeah.
Right? And at any given moment, it's one or the other. Sometimes both. But if we're not hurting these people in ways that genuinely affect them, mean tweets don't.
Yeah.
Then we're not, so that's what non-violently, economically destroy these people. If at all possible, it's going to take a lot of people to do that. It's going to get a lot of people, to have to fully commit to removing their money from the system. But if enough people start to do it, then that can generate at least a groundswell for a conversation about, hey, maybe we don't really need this government now that we have a general understanding and agreement and a system of economics that isn't based on the exploitation of everyone else and their natural resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I fight for elections so hard, because I don't believe that writing to Adam Schiff, I don't believe that writing to Ted Lieu is going to do anything. I really don't. They know they're going to get the cover of the establishment. They know they're going to get the cover of the mainstream media to spew their CIA talking points no matter what. And they know what's going on with Julian. I mean, it's been years now. So it's a quagmire, because obviously I think these people should be gone, but we can't get them gone if we don't have proper elections.
I mean, but
kick their asses out the door.
And you're not going to have proper elections because you don't have fair elections in the system by design.
Yeah.
So, and you have the illusion, which is worse than because people are still buying into that illusion that they can vote for someone every so often, right? And so you need to break that illusion almost before you do anything else, and then fight for a true platform, that a true reality where people actually have control. Because right now, even if we fixed our elections on the surface, we wouldn't really fix them. Like what they're trying to do with the Voting Rights Act and all that bullshit, it's bullshit. It's not fixing anything. And so, but people are still buying into it with the weaponization of the identity politics and so on. I just wanted to point out that Edward Snowden said that this is the end to the case against Julian Assange. But he said this, and I agree, it should be the end. But instead, the Biden administration is once again ramping up efforts to continue the prosecution, the extradition of Julian Assange. He doesn't have to, he could very well stop. But I mean, again, he's not in charge here. The state agencies are, and it doesn't matter. New boss, same as the old boss.
Yeah.
As we say. So while this should be like a key, like destruction of any sort of accusations against Julian Assange, we know we don't live in a fair system, so it's not going to be.
This is the $1 million question I have for Steve right now, and the reason why I'm glad he's on the show for this question right here. In this particular situation, with this witness now admitting that he was full of shite, is this going to be any change in the case for Julian Assange? I mean, the pessimism in me says, the pessimistic in me makes me say, the pessimist in me makes me think, no way, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change. It's the same old shit. The mainstream media has their narrative, the establishment has their narrative. But if this was a movie, this would be like, oh my God, this is the thing that's going to turn the case.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. If this community of decentralized knuckleheads can somehow manage to hijack the narrative and make it that, then yes, absolutely. Because you would be forcing each and every member of Congress to confront the fact that how do you feel, Congressman, Congresswoman, about the FBI allowing a convicted pedophile to continue raping kids so that Julian Assange can continue to be tortured, so that the United States can get international jurisdiction over the press?
Yeah.
That's what we need from everybody watching. We need door stopping to become a thing again. Yeah. Everyone has a camera on their phone. Yeah. Everyone. Everyone is the fucking media. When we're at an event, and I try to remind people that everyone who's attending is the media. Citizen journalism has been allowed to go into the hands of a couple of the cool kids. Mm-hmm. That's bullshit, because most of those people don't go to the places they report on. They're not out in the fucking streets. And no offense, because you're on a couch, but you also help us organize events, and we're doing one on July 3rd. But they're fucking, they're couch commenting is what they're doing for most of it, and that's just a fucking phrase. I'm not trying to slight you or your people. Okay.
Get the fuck out of here, Steve.
Yeah, no. But I mean,
but it's true.
So many of the fucking keyboard commandos, and that's it. Even as thought leaders in the progressive movement or journalists, some of them are just now for the first time visiting the place that they're experts on, which is really fucking weird.
Crazy.
Because that is personality driven, not content driven.
Yeah. Well, we had to put this last clip in here from your good friend, Steve, Howard Dean. Assange did real damage along with others in collaborating with the Russians to elect Trump. He should not be pardoned under any circumstances.
Fuck Howard Dean's fucking bot bitch ass.
Is the big lie. What they're trying to say, the big lie is the election 2020 was false. No. This is the big lie. And everybody got to go along with this big lie and paid no repercussions for getting it wrong.
And they're still regurgitating this lie.
They're still trying to make policy on this bullshit.
Still. It's just disgusting.
Howard Dean is a partially animated piece of shit that has been coated in so much money it's been allowed to gain sentience by buying it or renting it. Fuck Howard Dean.
Fuck Howard Dean. Do you want to say anything?
Like that? No, that was my... Johnny, do you want to grab Steve's microphone real quick and just do a little wrap-up of what your video was and anything, your thoughts or process on that as far as making sure we get some signatures and get them who's our congresswoman? We can get it on Judy Chu's desk. How do you think Judy Chu would react?
Come here, you beautiful motherfucker.
He is beautiful.
I mean, I guess we could do that. I mean, Steve, what have you guys been? I mean, I guess you kind of suggested it. Economically. I agree in the general sense. Yeah. Not just for Julian Assange, but to get everything that we want. We need to hurt the predator class's money ties somehow. So I don't, whatever, and what I'm talking about, what I'm saying is definitely sketchy to say. Other than that, I mean, I asked Julian's father, to tell me what he thinks is a good way. So that's what he said. So everyone should try it. And then also, I like your idea about asking politicians where they stand on that. So yeah, I mean.
And look, I would extend to that to tell your favorite content creators and even the content creators that a lot of you fucking weird motherfuckers go and hate watch, like obsessively. It's fucking weird. You know who you are. You do. Tell those motherfuckers too. Like we need to hijack this narrative. We need for a moment to have a little bit of reality creep into, if not the full-on mainstream media, then it's fucking, feeder organizations, the ones that pretend to be independent but only show mainstream media clips and only deliver content from within the allowable parameters of mainstream conversation. They might be somewhere near the edge of it on some things, but for the most part, it's mainstream media with occasional swear words, sometimes, mostly behind a paywall. Yeah.
Speaking of that, Steve, this next part happened too over the weekend, and it really caused this seismic of crash of simps, because I really do hate the way people in independent media or journalists in general in the progressive movement have been put on a pedestal, and you can't touch them or criticize them, even the ones I like. And it's just ridiculous to me how you think that's any different than the mainstream media and how they've glorified certain personalities like Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper, any of those people, right? So what happened was that Chelsea Manning did a whole podcast with the Intercept. Yes, the Intercept. The Intercept, that is the reason that promoted Bellingcat
with me.
Yeah, we are.
The Intercept that was responsible for pretty much the imprisonment of Reality Winner. The Intercept that doesn't protect its sources. Right. And we could go on and on about the Intercept that's propping up this whole, pro-Biden agenda, this whole idea that they'll say a couple of things that are progressive, but really they're never going to divert very much from the parameters of the establishment narrative. So that's that Intercept. So Chelsea Manning went on this podcast and by all accounts threw Julian Assange under the bus. And so Ken Klippenstein has been bragging about how he has been pointed out by Chelsea Manning. This is what she said. She said, or the Intercept wrote this. Activist and whistleblower Chelsea Manning joined Ryan Grimm and Ken Klippenstein on Deconstructed to talk about prison prospects for whistleblowers in the Biden era and what she's been up to since her release. By the way, she's been playing also whatever games with Hassan Piker and AOC too, so I'm not really that surprised that this happened. But she said if Ken were around in 2010, he would have been the recipient. Let's just put it that way. And so the Intercept highlighted this, right? Ken Klippenstein highlighted this. He is like, I don't know why people like are obsessed with this guy, but to me he just seems like a Twitter somebody that just like has hot takes on Twitter, really. And a lot of people were obviously pissed, right? Because of the whole throwing under the bus. And I want your opinion on this, Steve, but I wanted to read a couple of statuses. I'm going to read one first and then, and then we can get your opinion on all of it. Aramate said, Julian Assange is currently being caged and tortured for being the recipient of those leaked documents and courageously publishing them. What a shitty thing to say. What even more callous and bullshit thing to promote. So he did say something against that. And then we had, did I put that twice? This is the further comment when Ken Klippenstein said humbled. He said, perhaps you should hold off on the gloating about this until the actual recipient of those leaks is no longer being caged and tortured for publishing them. Okay. And then Glory, I'm going to highlight Glory's tweet here. Your hostess with the mostest, you're better than your co-host, Glory Jones, said, Julian Assange is currently being tortured for the release of those documents. Yet Chelsea is saying she'd give them to Ken and the Intercept because they're more chummy with each other, I guess. After the Intercept burned so many sources. This is poor judgment, to put it nicely. And then the last tweet I wanted to highlight before we get Steve's kind words is Misty. Because this is a really good thread, the way she put this up. She said, I'm legit struggling to find a way to respond to this that doesn't include going the entire fuck off. Fuck it. I'm now mad at myself because I realized I was holding back because I have so much respect and appreciation for Chelsea, and that makes me a hypocrite. I say all the time that you should hold people accountable. This is gross. Throwing Julian Assange under the bus as he's literally fighting for his life, as the future of press freedom hangs in the balance, is fucking gross. I don't know why she's doing it, and I don't care. It's gross. And especially to talk about Fed Klippenstein and the fucking Intercept, who is known for screwing over sources. What the actual fuck? And I'm still holding back, which is just pissing me off even more. I need to fucking rant. Okay, so
she needs a show.
So a lot of the pushback on her, of course she got a lot, was how is this bad? This is good. Blah blah blah. Steve, I just want to hear why this was an attack on Assange, or why it was a throwing under the bus on Assange. Some people don't see it that way.
Yeah. And also, too, when you do explain it, can you also give a little note to how the Intercept fucks people over, too, as well? Like, how they
100%.
Thank you, brother.
So, I have seen what Chelsea did there in that interview. I've seen a number of people that were and have been, like, really prominent activists who have outward expressions of anarchy as their personal philosophies, it's the forms of anarchism, and are like have become part of this flipping of whatever the idea of Antifa was 10 years ago, and Occupy, Black Bloc, shit like that. The flipping of that because it was a fucking op the whole time that sucked in a whole fuck ton of well-intentioned people into the little, marching fascist, proto shitlibs that they are, largely. And that's exactly what the Intercept is. Greenwald said that.
Yeah.
On his way out. And Chelsea Manning knows about that. She does. She knows that Laura Poitras left for, like, similar reasons. Excessive shitlibbery at the head of the organization. Nobody talks about Pierre Omidyar. But I guarantee you Chelsea Manning knows who Pierre Omidyar is. I guarantee you that. So it is this weird, almost Stockholmy shit where you're cozying up to the people who legit had you tortured.
Yeah.
And Ken Klippenstein is just like the perfect person for that. He is, because his whole shtick is, I'm going to do like entry to the Democratic Party through progressivism snark. And like that's the only reason he has a gig, is because he makes humorless fucking cunts chuckle. Like it's the kind of humor that humorless cunts go, yeah, that's clever. You know? And like that's the fucking extent of it. That's all it is.
That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly
the
what
people
it
who
is, dude.
think Trevor Noah is funny.
Yes.
Because they have to think Trevor Noah is funny. Those are the people that laugh at King Clipperstein's jokes.
Yeah.
The exact same fuck. And that subset is shrinking by the day. Because they can't stand up to the fucking weight of the own like bullshit wrapped around the ideology that makes the, you know, people they're allowed to talk to smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Backwards fucking morons, dude.
How did reality get screwed over?
Wow.
Because I think it's really important that people understand that, because you guys have said this before and you guys are the experts on this. It's like, you know, they pretty much, the reason why reality was jailed was what the Intercept did. And I was like, okay. Somebody had asked me that, and I was like, well, when I get Steve on the show next, I'll have him explain that. Because I think it's important in the context of what's going on over here, that people are praising the Intercept, meanwhile they're screwing over whistleblowers.
I mean, there are a number of people that have covered this. I would really recommend Moon of Alabama, and I'm gonna like refer to that while we're talking about it. I thought I had it up on my phone, but it was on Twitter.
Who is reality? Can you explain that?
Yeah.
So Reality Winner was an NSA analyst, and she got a hold of some documents that she thought showed that the Russians done hacked our freedom,
right,
or something like. And she, her family, like one of the very few, you know, outwardly very liberal Democrat loyal, you know, in Texas, she thought that it showed that the Russians had, you know, helped Trump get in.
Right,
so, according to FBI documents, a reporter at The Intercept sent the leaked documents to a contractor working for NSA, the same agency, a full week before The Intercept published the story. The alleged intention was to let the NSA itself verify the documents, an unintentional move. I'm quoting Whitney Webb's article from Mint Press, is what I'm doing. Unintentional or unusual move for a news outlet that was originally intended to have exclusive publication rights over Snowden leaks. Upon being contacted, the NSA asked the Intercept redact parts of the document. Intercept complied. But what also happens is that the documents themselves that, you know, she was taking an image of, when they come from the NSA computers, they're watermarked.
Yeah.
They have a way that you can identify it down to the desk that copied it. So the Intercept didn't hide any of that when they sent it back to the NSA to have them take a look at it. So the NSA got the raw data sent back to them and were able to immediately identify them. Now, we don't know 100% if it was Matthew Cole, because there were 4 people who had credits, 3 or 4 people who had credits on the original Reality Winner story. But Matthew Cole was one of them. Matthew Cole also burned Terry Aubrey, also burned John Kiriakou prior to being hired by the Intercept.
Yeah.
So the Intercept knew they were bringing on someone who had previously burned a whistleblower.
Yeah.
And they added him to their stable. Daniel Hale is in prison right now because the Intercept burned him. That's the outlet exists as a giant honeypot.
Yep.
Pierre Omidyar finances color revolutions and right-wing fucking militias all over the globe. He's the guy who started eBay. He's the guy who took PayPal from Peter Thiel. And they have been really close ever since. Oh, and Elon Musk, by the way. Elon Musk, PayPal too. People forget that. Yeah. But Pierre Omidyar took 5% of the Snowden documents and said that's enough, but we'll build a media empire around the Snowden documents and being the trusted source, not WikiLeaks.
Exactly.
The trusted source for this, and it's the limited hangout public fucking operation to collect the whistleblowers that would otherwise have had the protection that WikiLeaks has been able, is given and offers all and everyone who provides them with information. Adrian Lamo outed Chelsea Manning because she poured her heart out to him on a chat app that anybody could see if they had law enforcement access to the back door in it, but Lamo went straight to the FBI with it. Had, it just stayed within WikiLeaks. Assange, to this day, his dad yesterday, alleged whistleblower, alleged leaker. Because they actually don't know. As far as they're saying, they don't know who if Chelsea Manning provided that material or not. She did. That's on her. But they're not saying yes or no. They helped provide and build her defense. WikiLeaks went out of their, created the Courage Foundation. Helped create the Courage Foundation for Chelsea Manning's defense. Did a lot. And yeah, so it was a kick in the gut.
Yeah.
To hear that, and to hear that about the Intercept, and but I'm sure King Clipperstein was nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
He was.
Yeah. I'm sure he was.
I've had Zach Voorhees on the show before, the Google whistleblower and whatnot, and I asked him. I said, "Why did you take it to?" He had all those documents he released and everything, but I asked him. I said, "Why did you take your story to? Where'd he go to? The one that gets all the Project Veritas. I'm like, why did you take it to WikiLeaks?" And he goes, "Well, if you haven't noticed, most people that took shit to WikiLeaks are either dead or in prison, or that's the situation there." And I couldn't think of anywhere else that anybody could take their documents to or whatnot. Where would you suggest whistleblowers go? Thanks. Where would you suggest the whistleblowers go nowadays? Now that we know for a fact that Intercept just turns against their sources.
I would say you can go to WikiLeaks because what your friend said is inaccurate.
Yeah.
Like Julian Assange, yes, he was the target of 10 years in multiple countries going after him, but WikiLeaks is still operating. It's because of WikiLeaks that we even know about the OPCW scandal.
Yeah.
Those were WikiLeaks drops. Everybody forgets that part. Everyone forgets that bit. But that's because of WikiLeaks. There was a drop in 2018 called Fish Rot that exposed massive global corruption inside and focusing on the fishing industry in Namibia, but a number of people went to jail. There was actual resolution as a result of it. So Chelsea Manning in prison because she said some shit that she shouldn't have to a reporter for at the time the New York Times. And he ran to the FBI with it. WikiLeaks, to this day. If she said so, cool, but we don't talk about our sources. So out of 10 million released documents in a dozen years, they did get the guy that they spent hundreds of billions of dollars and a decade-long smear campaign going after locked up, extradition denied, haven't won yet, still going, still time to make a dent in that, maybe even change the direction of it. If people like the person that you were having that conversation with was looking at it through a different lens. The only other people that you can name that had any association with WikiLeaks that like actually got arrested, did a bunch of time over it, would be Jeremy Hammond. And by his own admission, he got set up by a Fed and fucking ran his mouth too much.
Yeah.
I think another thing is to keep things decentralized, right? Don't just go to one place. I mean, keep people guessing, because the more different kinds of people get different leaks, as independent media kind of rises, I think that's better, because it decentralizes where just taking down one organization and taking down one person. Now you don't know who. So I think that's another point. And as we wrap up this whole show, I wanted to get your thoughts on McAfee, since you got to interview him. And,
Great interview, by the way.
It was a great interview, and we just wanted to talk about it with you in person.
John McAfee didn't kill himself.
Hashtag.
Right. But no, I mean, I hope that Janice gets an actual court case out of this, and there's now like a small but building conspiracy theory based off that interview that John McAfee laid out clues to the fact that he would be disappearing and faking his own death, and like there's a whole bunch of things with him mentioning Barcelona and Guidant asking Janet like he doesn't know. But Janice, in the mythological canon, is the keeper of information. It's like I don't know, dude. It's wild. Like
the dead man
we'll
switch.
talk
You believe
about
that?
it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have it. I would have to like look at it and have a bunch of time with documentation, way to check it and shit like that. But wouldn't put it past him. He's a fucking pirate king.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that in the present tense because I think the Pirate King did some Pirate King shit.
Yep.
100%. 100%. Totally think that Pirate King did some Pirate King shit. But I fuck, but that's a hope.
Yeah.
That's a hope.
Don't have, what do you call it, hopium?
But I would like to believe. I would.
Hope porn?
This is where I want to put my hopium
right here.
Pasta on something like.
I got it.
Like
I got
this.
you, babe. Yeah.
Not in an illegitimate, well conducted fucking puppet show.
Yeah.
Called the American political system.
Exactly.
I will park my hopium in the idea that right now John McAfee is on a very different pirate yacht. But he's got whatever the fuck he wants in his hand and in front of him.
Yeah. And
is laughing his ass off in an entirely different face.
Well, any updates on Commander X?
He had a meeting in person with his attorney today. I don't know what time that was, but when we're done, I'm gonna call Jay and try to get some information, which means we'll probably be doing an Anonymous Bites Back at some point tonight if that happens. But as it stands, July 20th, San Jose, I can pull up the, if you go, and by the way, go to at FreeCommanderX _ on Twitter. Go to freecommanderx.org for information about all of that. But let's see.
There's so much.
FreeCommanderX.org.
How do you get McAfee and then Gravel within days of each other?
Right. And not Kissinger. Not Kissinger.
Not Kissinger. It's never Kissinger.
2021.
It's never Lupus. It's never Kissinger.
2021 ain't shit. 2021 scared to take out Henry Kissinger, aren't you? Fuck,
Don't tempt it.
Pussy ass year.
Or wait.
While we're getting ready, I just want to mention some shout outs, Steve, while you're pulling that up, to Allie Alexandra, who's hanging out.
Allie, welcome back. Allie was on vacation. We missed her. We're
Downtime, right? You get
glad
that.
she's here.
What is this downtime you speak of?
And when I get back from traveling, we'll be back to regular, more slow news day schedule. So looking forward to that.
Another world
as
view is
well.
possible, by the way, too, says hi,
Ian.
Steve. He says hi. He says, please tell Steve I say hi.
Hell yeah, dude.
Abolish
Ian's awesome. Thank you for
politicians.
coming out yesterday. I did love that the majority of the people that showed up to the event
Stop.
yesterday. No,
don't
because
stop. This
is awesome.
Yeah.
It was our folks.
It was our people.
It was, man. Like, they were there because we said that we were going to approach media from a place of activism.
Yeah.
So that's proof of concept, and we should be really fucking happy about that,
Yep.
Pasta.
Yes.
We should be.
Yes.
Because that's mischief managed.
You're
all right?
You're right. Listen.
And so that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why maybe liaise.
Liaise. That's
Maybe
that's
liaise.
just liaise. Hashtag just liaise.
Facilitate,
Yep.
encourage, advise.
And liaise.
From, the comfortable position that you have earned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to be told that.
Yeah.
Yo, dude, you can...
Kick back and liaise.
Yeah. Maybe
Anything else before we get on out of here? Let's show the website.
I absolutely fucking forgot what I was trying to
The
do.
website.
The website we got behind you.
Commander-X.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We
court
got
date.
it.
That's
Johnny
right.
pulled it on up. And
Yeah, we've had a long show, guys. Thanks so much for sticking with us. We sorry we went down on Rokfin, but if you want to help us out, we have our PayPal, our Streamlabs link. You can sign up for $9.99 on Rokfin, ROKFIN. We also have our merch. Defund the Pentagon has been a really popular shirt, but I would advise you to buy the I Love Putin ones because, so you can be like me. And I have to send Misty. I'm going to get Misty one.
I need to talk to Ryan T-Lab about his merch, dude.
by the way, use the code Fuck Biden Fuck Trump for 15% off.
Right.
Fuck Biden Fuck Trump. Guys, thank you so much. Fam just talked about all the people we love, and we thank you all for supporting the show, from our Patreons to our Rockfinners. Sorry the Rockfin went down. All you beautiful people hung out on YouTubes today. We love you all. We mentioned some of you guys out there. Thank you so much for everybody who made the show possible today, and thank you to our guest. We always love him when he comes into town, not just his poikinism, but not just his show and his shtick and all the information he brings to the table. Shtick. He's got a good Julian shtick. But no, I love him as a person. He's amazing, and I always get educated. And I'm glad he's here with us today.
Damn,
so
it's
we're
not
gonna go
a
out
shtick.
there and
This is who he is.
This is who he is. I don't do tricks, Steve Poikin, and thank you so much for joining us today, buddy.
You're very
All
welcome.
right.
Let's get out there and go stomp for Julian. For everybody out there.
Oh, it is that time, huh?
Yeah, it
It's
is
gonna
that
take,
time.
It's over. Well, it's like, yeah, I can.
From Pasta Jardula.
And Fiorella and Johnny Sue on the ones and twos and Steve Poikinen.
Convo out.
All right.